right, everyone, welcome back to the channel. So as you see by the title, today we're going to be talking about Lamictal or Lamotrigine withdrawal here. All right, so just like a little disclaimer, I'm not a mental health professional, as everyone knows. Don't hold any sort of medical license, so don't come back and blame something on me. And all the information below is just a personal reflection. So once again, don't take it seriously. It's not medical advice. So now that we're getting into it, when coming off of Lamotrigine, you definitely want to think about the possible effects and kind of what to expect. So the typical thing that people will tell you is, of course, it depends on why you're using the medication, whether you're going to be using it for as an anticonvulsant for a seizure syndrome, or not a syndrome, but just seizures in general, or you're going to be somebody like me who is using it for mood instability. Maybe you have very deep depression. Major depressive disorder is pretty popular to use this for. So first things first, these are just technically common side effects. I would definitely say the seizure thing is not a common side effect, but for somebody who is using it for seizures, that is your number one concern. And you would already know that by trying to come off, being that you're just going to be noticing that, of course, you're going to be scared going from, I'm assuming you'd be on 500, 200, and then you're going to want to come down from there. When you do it for seizures, though, I'm not as knowledgeable about that. And I guess I'd be speaking more towards the people who are using it for mood enhancement or mood stability in general. So seizures aside, memory loss, that is definitely common. I wouldn't say it is a 100% thing that's going to happen to everyone, but I would say that just something that you might notice is that things aren't going to click maybe as quick for reasons we'll get into. So intense headaches, that one is really common. I'd probably say that if you're going to be going down in Lamictal on almost any degree of coming off of it, that you might experience a headache after that first week. Usually everything within the first week might be a high. You might be saying, oh, this isn't so bad. I feel actually 10 times better now that I'm starting to come off. It's going to be really smooth sailing up until that week. Usually everything after the week, and once you get towards the 2 weeks and maybe you jumped maybe you jumped down 20%, something like that, something a little bit more serious, and it was too large of a jump. So then you got the intense headaches, and then from there you maybe want to bump it up a little bit, or if you're going to stick it out, you can stick it out. I don't always recommend doing it, but we just got into this here, so we got a lot left to cover. Feeling detached or a loss of identity is possible. Sometimes when all the chemicals are changing up there because you're coming off, glutamate's going up, GABA's going down, and then in the middle of that you have your serotonin and dopamine requirements. For me, I'm someone who gets suppressed easily, so dopamine not being there as much, feeling like I don't have a lot of energy to get up and do something, feeling like I'm not getting a reward from doing something was very popular for me when coming off. So just kind of watch out for just, you're doing things, you're not feeling any sensation from doing it, you're feeling dull, kind of wiped out. A lot of that comes from that glutamate overload. And so if that happens, maybe pause the titrations going down, maybe stick at that level for a while until side effects go away, and then continue later on. But I'm just trying to give you guys the best fighting chance here, because it is definitely a medication that's a little bit harder to go off of. But so besides feeling detached here, we have frantic or uncontrollable thoughts. This one's very popular because the glutamate, we're talking about here, is going all the way up as you're coming off. And when that glutamate goes up, your thoughts are going to be ringing quicker. You're going to be maybe a little bit more like an ADHD person, where stuff is going to be popping out to you left and right. Your eyes are going to be darting more frequently, and maybe you can't even stay on task for as long as you could have beforehand. Yeah, so you're going to feel a little bit more frantic. And coming into the next point, though, you have to make sure that we don't mistake that franticness for a fight or flight. We have to recognize that if that is going on, we might be stuck in flight a little bit. But don't be alarmed by being stuck in a flight. But when you are in flight, though, do realize that you have to make an assertion to come out of it. You might not feel like you're actually completely coming out of the flight, but you might, though, feel that while you're trying to come out of the flight, things are getting easier and you're more okay with sitting in it because you're not allowing it to take control of everything that you do. So maybe you don't want to talk to people as much. Maybe you can't think of what to say around people. You're a little bit more hidden. Maybe you have more of like a tight feeling around your body, a worriness sensation. A lot of those things are indicative of being in a flight scenario. Maybe you just don't feel like, you want to get after things the same way that you did before. A lot of that can be a little bit undercover of fight or flight. And then we'll talk about how to take care of that too. Now, there is a kind of theory that when you do come off, the glutamate goes up significantly. So much so that it actually does make the receptors, and I shouldn't say cells, but it's more or less like the receptors in your brain almost get sick because there's just such a glutamate overload that you actually kill off and die off a lot of these like receptors. Much the same that you do when you overdose on like an Adderall. It's the same thing. You only can take so much of something before it starts going from helping you to hurting you. But in this case, you're coming off, and so it's going up. And we don't want to come off too quick though, because if we come off too quick, it goes up too fast. And then we're going to have maybe that kind of almost like, that headache effect that makes us feel like we're just slower and like we're not responding as fast. So that is possible, and it can happen. The imbalance, that goes with that theory that that when your glutamate goes up, your GABA goes down. So you're going to feel less comfortable. You're going to feel less at ease all the time. Your nervous system's going to go up. Things that control GABA are going to be, nervous system stimulating, so that the GABA wouldn't feel like as much as present there. I just find that that's a total link between the two at times. But very notable thing though after that is that a lot of the old trauma or previous challenges that you were going through, maybe the reasons to why you got onto the Lamictal, are going to become more present. They probably will show back up too. That isn't though to be completely concerning. It's kind of just a natural thing that happens when like we take the brakes off, with Lamictal. It's a pretty stimulating and pretty powerful, drug. So like when that does come off, a lot of the trauma that maybe did happen before, maybe it was like major depressive disorder. I'm not saying that the depression's going to come back, but maybe a little bit of anxiety comes back, and maybe you had that before. Some of these things are kind of natural that just come up, and it's a part of coming off of that drug. And it's not to be alarming, because you can deal with it and you understand that it's happening, and because of that, it doesn't mean that it is this staple that you're labeling yourself as. So let's not get confused there. It's just something that I want you to know that is very, probable that's going to happen. Besides that, let's see here. Yeah, don't play into these feelings. They're going to happen. They're going to be there. Write them down. Make sure you have something that is going to keep your thoughts and your state of mind more consistent, so that you don't run away with these behaviors. Let's see here. We're going to get into calming supplements too in a minute. Also, guys, if you want the same PDF that I'm using, it is left down in the description. So you can just go down there and click on it and then keep it for yourself. Preparation in, the gist of things when you do something like this, we want to aim for success. So when you aim that, to that height, that 10 out of 10 limit that we want to hit, you don't want to put yourself in like a high stress situation before the taper. Make sure that, you're not going through a divorce. Make sure that, someone didn't just die in the family. We're trying to make sure that we have the highest success rate, because if you do mess that up in the middle where life gets way too stressful, way out of hand, you're falling off the edge of considered like tolerable, you're going to blame the medication for a lot of things, and you're going to become, inherently confused on which one is because of the medication, or which side effect is because of the medication, and which is from that instance. And I don't want you to have to go back on the medication, and maybe in that case, if something does get, difficult in that sense, we're just going to stop and we're just going to hold at that rate. Of course, guys, get rest. I mean, your brain doesn't heal unless you actually rest. I don't know for any workaholic I need to explain that to. If you're watching, so you already know you. Definitely make sure like you get the rest, you get like food. Don't be going to bed at night hungry all the time. Let's see here. So this is more personal, but you guys really have to memorize, in the sense, the reason to why you're coming off, and you have to write it down. Don't be the person that says that they won't write it down. You're going to end up kicking yourself in the butt around the 2-3 week mark, maybe 1 month to maybe a month and a half mark too, like where you just completely forget about everything. That is, that is a thing. a lot of the reasons that I think people would come off for is that they want to feel more stable or happier in life. That's typically what's going on. Sometimes for me, I felt tired often, and I could tell I was tired by when I would take the drug, and then after I would take it, I'd feel very calm, very at ease, but very tired and very almost numb feeling. So emotionally numb was popular. Maybe you desire more authentic emotion. We do know that Lamictal keeps a lot of things from happening, keeps glutamate from spiking, keeps us from, going into different sorts of emotional boundaries. And so maybe you want to feel happier when you go on vacation. All right, this is entirely possible. You want to feel more existing in the moment. That is possible. Yes, when you quit, it is. It's not that it's an unrealistic goal, an unrealistic thing. No, for people that are interested in quitting, yes, you can feel more awareness and you can feel more like seated in life than previously. It just depends if you want those things, or if it couldn't even be maybe something that actually happens to you, but it just exists. I mean, that could it's just something I felt like mentioning. Otherwise, you're going to want freedom or independence from medication. We don't want to be hooked on something, or maybe not hooked on something, but maybe more dependent on something, because it's very time dependent when you take it. Everyone knows this that takes it. So, I mean, the withdrawal feelings kick in quick. I wouldn't say the withdrawal is the worst thing that you can do. It's not something that's comparatively to like an antipsychotic, but it's still there. The withdrawal is definitely still there. It's still serious. And if you don't take it seriously enough, you can actually have, some pretty lifelong kind of side effects, like the very famous rash is definitely, I forgot the name of the rash, and I'm so sorry I didn't include it in this PDF, but yeah, that's a famous one. But I mean, I wouldn't think of that so much anyways. But so maybe you wish to handle your challenges using therapy, or just self-awareness in general. You can definitely handle what you've been, maybe you put this on because you're bipolar and you're not actually sure that you're bipolar. You think that you can handle your challenges, through self-awareness and through keeping track of what's going on, and then also telling yourself that maybe, we're going to quit the negative self-talk, we're going to quit the hindsight thinking, and we're just going to go straight at it from the basis of that, we're not going to give up, and we're going to give ourselves a lot of grace when we need to. For me, also religious or spiritual reasons, that's definitely a piece of why I quit as a follower in Christ, that is for sure. Let's see here. So write your personal reasons down before starting, as we just talked about. And they definitely keep you grounded during the hard moments, that's for sure. So how to taper safely. Now, there's going to be a whole list of things that you can keep note of when doing this. But, I mean, having a really good psychiatrist or a good doctor, I would hope that you're with a psychiatrist, though, because doctors typically are going to be... they just don't want to deal with you, essentially. So I hope that you're with a psychiatrist. But essentially, though, when doing this, this is my opinion. Of course, this is where we get into that, I don't have a medical license territory. But if you have a very nice psychiatrist, they will be able to be very readily available to adjust. So going from the 150 milligram tablet down to maybe 25s, tossing in a bunch of 25s to help, minimize that large or even inaccurate taper, right? So 25 milligram tablets, I think they're great for when you're over, I'd probably say, I guess for when you're over 50, anything over 50, use 25s. I think it's cool. I think it's easier to do. You could chop them in half too, I believe. We're aiming to be accurate, because Lamictal is extremely important to be accurate with. It's not like you're taking, a Zoloft, a Vibrid, even though you should, and I'm being serious with this, taper off of those, please. Don't drop off. Lifelong side effects from that too. But it's very important that we're accurate, though, with Lamotrigine. It is very sensitive to that. So if you look on here, I just have some suggestions as to what it is. I think the 25 milligram tablets are really useful. I think switching over to those right away is probably the most powerful thing you can do with any practitioner. Some practitioners are so good that they'll actually give you liquid form. I'm not betting my money on that, but I mean, it's possible. It definitely is. But the 25 milligrams until you reach the 40 or the 40 milligram mark, then after that reduce by 50. I think that's a cool one. I don't think that this works for everyone. If you're that seizure individual who's using this for seizures, that's a whole nother ball game. You might want to go down by, I think you could do the 25 milligram dose up until 50, and then once you're at 50, you want to go down by like 20%. Something even smaller, minute. If you're the mood person who's taking this for bipolar mood swings, I would think that this would work just fine for you. But the moment we get headaches, stuff like that, we gotta maybe bump that up. So if you're going down by 25 milligrams and you get a headache, chop it in half and then go up, for a little bit. Go up and take that 12.5 milligram tablet, so that we, we're trying to mitigate the I can't function side effect realm from this. So that's what I got there. And let's see here. Okay, so this is the most important section. All right, so besides those covered, you should already be having thought about those, but this one's where we really get ahead. This is why you guys watch my videos, okay? So, supplementational support. All right, so I'm giving you things that I really do feel from backed by a lot of research and a lot of me trying a lot of stuff too, that they're not going to put you in a worse situation and that they're not going to interact with the stuff that you're doing. So if you're on an antidepressant, we don't want to be increasing the antidepressant as we're coming off, okay? We do not want to do that. When you increase an antidepressant, you're essentially going to be enabling the glutamate to react quicker. That's the general thought. So we don't want to be increasing our antidepressants when coming off. That's a no-go. Don't be doing that. So instead, we're going to take L-theanine and now buy good stuff. Don't buy the cheap stuff from Walgreens, okay? It's probably not going to work. It's probably only effective up to 10 milligrams. So you think you're getting 150, 200, you're only getting 10. So buy something from a place, maybe go on Full Script's website. They have a lot of backed, research, third-party tested supplement companies to order from. So go to Full Script. Take L-theanine. That's going to do like a lot of balancing, and it does work. All of these on this section work. So in case you're thinking that they don't, they do. So don't be thinking that it's an absolute kind of waste of time having looked at it. Polyphenols, that's my maybe slightly useless one, but it really does help though in the calming sense. So don't feel afraid to take olive oil, stuff like that. That actually really does help. The special ones that I'm getting at are going to be the magnesium glycinate or taurate. That's going to be those times when you feel that you're in that fight or flight response, when thoughts are going crazy and your nervous system is completely tense. That's when you do that. Make sure you're getting stuff that's not cheap really either, because the cheap stuff is going to technically sometimes give you maybe more heartburn, maybe more discomfort. Don't want to do that. Don't be cheaping out. Buy a $30 bottle that's a company that is reputable. Don't be buying Target's Up and Up brand shit. Okay, there is reasons to why stuff is cheap. Just in case we're kind of leaning towards the cheap side. I understand it, but don't do that. Fish oil, go to Nordic brands. Nordic fish oil is really good. Get the most expensive stuff they have, the big bottles, the big ones. I have one that I'll probably show you in a second. Do that. Use a coupon code from a coupon finder. You'll get the exact same pricing as some of the most cheap brands if you just buy the bulk one with the coupon code. It's great. So do that. Don't be someone who's cheaping out everywhere, because you're just throwing your money in the trash. It actually is worth, believe it or not, it actually is worth spending money. I hate to even say it, but it is. To balance out the whole glutamate GABA situation, since they are linked, they definitely are. They're not perfectly linked, but they're very patternized to act and fluctuate together. So lemon balm and passion flower, you can try these. All right, they're cheaper for sure. The lemon balm is. I'd probably do the lemon balm. But when you do use these GABA supporting herbs and supplements that are agonists or even blockers, I would caution if you're somebody who has a thyroid problem, particularly if you are hypoactive. A lot of the stuff from lemon balm and passion flower is going to maybe do something to that. I don't really have personal anecdotal evidence that it will, but it could. So just keep that in mind. If you're somebody who doesn't have any thyroid problems, definitely give it a try. If it's a hard day, large headaches, hit some lemon balm, you will definitely notice. I mean, all of these that I'm giving you, the fish oil at night, the lemon balm when you need it, the magnesium glycinate when you need it, polyphenols all the time from olive oil. You can do that all the time. L-theanine all the time. Like, the goal is to get ahead of the side effects and to be using stuff that works. Now, the next part I have though here for the saffron, that's a tricky subject because, as I told you before, we don't want to be going up on antidepressants at this time. We want to be staying more just flatlined, if that's where we're at with your dosage, because I would assume that you're not upping and downing everything at the same time. I would hope your practitioner would do that. But saffron, that's one that comes with 0 side effects. I'm going to say that lightly, but I'm pretty damn sure that everything that comes with saffron is like side effect free. Really, I do think that. Buy stuff that is not with, you don't need to buy everything that comes with it with curcumin, but buy a supplement that actually has a lot of saffron in it. I'm just going to give you some examples really quick. All right, so here's some quick examples. So we have, this is the Nordic for the fish oil one, if you guys can see that. And then we got, this is just some cheap one that I bought. A lot of saffron's actually pretty good, I think. On this one, it says that it has 28 milligrams, 3.5 lepticrosolites. Yeah, 3.5 lepticrosolites. And there's different things to saffron, but I think though that saffron, when you're in that moment and everything is very dull and your mind isn't being very overactive and you notice yourself feeling down and unmotivated, saffron is a really, 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 really good thing to throw in there. And I almost can bet money that it will work for those people that are in those, in those moments. I would actually be willing to bet quite a lot of money that it would help you get out of those moments. And, another thing too is like people who are very into caffeine and big caffeine drinkers, unless you're a daily coffee addict, I can't reason with telling you that you should be backing down on the caffeine, because caffeine is going to boost that glutamate way up. It does. It's just an excitatory chemical. That's just what it does naturally. So when you're using caffeine, you have to, and I mean all parentheses, uppercase, you have to use L-theanine with it. Okay? You cannot be using caffeine without L-theanine. Like, please be using them together if you're somebody who's like a little bit mood unstable. That's pretty much what I got there. Maybe switch to decaf. Green tea is something that I've been using for caffeine. It's lower on caffeine amount, and it comes with L-theanine because it doesn't get destroyed like black tea does. Black tea destroys all the L-theanine that's in it. I'm not saying that these supplements and herbs are going to change your life forever, but I mean, whatever it can use to make things more tolerable is definitely to take note of. I believe we've covered these topics here. But yeah, fish oil at night for sure. I mean, even olive oil at night too. Olive oil in the morning, if you can take a shot of olive oil, more power to you. But ginkgo biloba, this is a weird one. So I know a lot of people are going to be looking up things that are maybe similar to Lamotrigine. I want you to be really, and I mean just like very cautious with ginkgo biloba. It is extremely close when we talk about the effects of Lamotrigine and ginkgo biloba. They are very close, and they do interact like a lot. I've taken ginkgo biloba with Lamotrigine before, and I found a like horrific like link between the two, and it was definitely a link because it almost slowed me to the point that I couldn't even like think at all. I had insane headaches. It was just it had a lot of interactions between the two, and it is notable to do those things. So definitely watch out for ginkgo biloba. Panax ginseng, I don't know really. I mean, it's in a lot of stuff. I wouldn't consume it either. I wouldn't do any of those things like that. Make sure that none of your stuff that you're consuming is like glutamate regulatory, which is like ginkgo. It definitely does that. So I mean, just don't touch it. Really don't. I wouldn't ever with a 10-foot pole. But personally, my final thoughts and advice towards you guys, write down your reasons for coming off, like we talked. As soon as you feel a change, definitely note it down, write it down, please. You definitely will thank me later for doing that. If it's on your phone, jot it down on your phone, forget about it. You'll come back to it later. I promise you will. You're not always gonna be able to remember. No pun intended there. be prepared for periods of fear and sadness. It comes and it goes. Emphasis on it goes away, because it will. It's just something that happens when our brain goes into shock. When chemicals get thrown up, we have a response to it, so it's temporary. Stay patient, mitigate how much in that crisis moment you're in. If you feel like you're going to fall off due to side effects, bump it up like we were talking about, and then stay there for a while. It's okay to stay there for a while. I'm staying there for a while right now while talking to you, so don't feel afraid. Okay. If it's sadness that you're staying there for, maybe continue to drop. But if it's hyper awareness, fight or flight symptoms, mind numbing, all these things, like in those kind of categories, stay there. Maybe stay there for a second. Okay. Besides that, I'm going to be coming out with more videos in the future for you guys that are dealing with a lot of challenges in like the mental health field and in the therapy field. So definitely, please, I would appreciate a lot if you guys like the video and subscribe, because this is exactly the stuff that I'm putting out. It's going to be hyper useful. All right. I'm not pulling your leg. I'm not asking for a free subscription. I do life coaching, and my wife, she also does therapy as well. So we do have a private practice. That's pretty much, guys, honestly, all I have for this video. I just definitely appreciate you guys for watching the whole time. I'm almost certain that I'm breaking that maybe 15-20 minute mark, but with that, I just appreciate everything you guys do for watching. And with that, get your free link to this sheet down in the description, and you guys take care. Bye.